Hi, beautiful people. I hope you guys are doing amazing and you're having a wonderful day and things are going your way. Um, anyway, so guys, today we're going to talk about leaders, okay, and um, how you should be careful on who you follow, okay. Um, First of all, I definitely think that most of us should lead ourselves. Okay, we should learn how to follow ourselves and our inner spirit, right? Our spirit is never wrong. It will always guide us into the right projects, to the right people, to the right locations, right? So you will never be misled, basically, okay? So when you follow your internal compass, sorry, you will definitely not be misled, okay? Unlike if you follow external forces, right, or other people. Okay, guys, so one thing that you have to realize, right, is that, oftentimes, and especially as was shown during this pandemic, right, a lot of leaders, so-called leaders, showed their true colors, right? Um, you know, uh, One thing that they all did, right, or many of them did at least, is, they made a specific set of rules for the population, right, for the average people, and they didn't follow those same rules, right? So they broke the rules. For example, instead of socially isolating, a lot of them partied, right? And we're seen out and about just partying with one another, attending different events, right? That just goes to show, right, that this is just, and of course, this is just one of the examples, right? Another example is, of course, the mask wearing too, right? A lot of them did not wear masks, especially behind the scenes. They automatically took them off, right? But of course, while being filmed, they all had their masks on, right? So as I said, right, guys, a lot of hypocrisy was going on, right? And, you know, that's one of the things, unfortunately, that, for example, narcissists do, right? Is that they set a certain standard for you, but they themselves, they can abide by a different set of rules, right? So why am I saying narcissists, right? Guys, the reason being is because this world is obviously, very obviously now, is run by psychopaths and narcissists, okay, guys? So this is like a study that was done, okay, on narcissism, right? And it said basically that narcissistic people are often leaders, right? And it is easy to understand why we are somehow drawn to them, right? And I will explain why that is too, okay? And, although the exact number of narcissists in leadership roles is hard to estimate, well, which of course is true, right? So there might be a lot more than we even know of, right? But mostly because very few have their narcissism tested, right? And several studies suggest that narcissists disproportionately occupy the leadership ranks, okay? So one study even estimated the narcissism of US presidents and concluded that on some of the key dimensions of narcissism, such as grandiosity, 80% of the overall population would score lower on narcissism than would the average US president, okay, guys? So that's a very scary thing, right? Especially, guys, if we talk about, if we now focus on the fact that, it's a spiritual battle, right? And narcissists are the individuals that are, because they're pretty much empty vessels, right, with an extremely damaged soul, right? they are the most likely candidates to be. Anyways, guys, so the demonic possession is real. It does happen. Okay, I don't know what you believe, you personally believe in, right? And whatever you believe in, right? I do believe that narcissists are the perfect vessels, right? They're completely broken beyond belief. And they've, eventually they've signed that deal with the devil, right? And now they've opened a lot of portals, right? And they did in fact become possessed, okay? And now those possessed leaders, right? So-called leaders that so many of us look up to, right? Or so many of us want to be led by, right? A lot of them, they're leading us off the cliff, and so, narcissism, right? Once again, you don't even have to think of this as in terms of spirituality, right? We can just look at their overall traits. And once again, narcissism is also on the spectrum, right? And it's okay to have some narcissistic traits, right? We all have them, right? For self-preservation, right? Supposedly. But narcissism is on the spectrum, right? And I'm talking about high narcissism, like narcissism that's like, way up there, right? Anyway, so their traits, right? The narcissistic traits, they're you can say that a lot of them are very first of all, they're ego driven. They're very they favor, for example, competition, right? Dominance over others, right? Control. It's basically everything that's anti-love, right? It's an anti-cooperation, right? You guys, also another fact that I learned, right, is that unfortunately, because of the society and because of evolution and what it favors, right, 40% more males than females tend to be narcissistic. and that's a very unfortunate fact, right? But that's the reason being is because our society actually rewards narcissism, okay, guys, and narcissistic traits. So yeah, there's that, right? And there's the man box that I already discussed, right? And that kind of makes the males more narcissistic in nature, right? And it kind of pushes them into that box and tells them that, hey, here are the traits, right, that you should adopt, and if you don't, then you're going to be seen as less than a man, right? And so unfortunately, because of this, narcissists are they're encouraged in our society, okay, and they're favored, right? And so yes, there's that, right, guys? But when it comes to like so let's go back to leaders, right? Our leaders, narcissism is it can be beneficial, right, on the surface level for leaders, right? Because narcissists, they have this overconfidence about themselves, right? Grandiosity, right? They come off as super confident, right? When in reality they're not, guys. It's their ego, right? When anything is overly so, right, or anything is underly so, right? What I mean is when someone is overconfident, it's an indication that they're trying to compensate for a lack of something, okay? So they're overdoing something in order to compensate for something that they feel inside, right? So, which in their case is the low confidence that they have, right? And so there's that, right? But on the surface level, right, because they come off as overly confident, that can kind of help others, right? And this kind of actually attracts people to them, right? And people kind of get tricked, they get tricked into thinking that this person is confident, they must be a good leader, right? So I should follow him, right? Anyways, no, wrong, guys, right? anyways, and also you know, the benefits of narcissism, they disappear, right, during difficult and complex times, okay, guys, which basically every leader should expect, right? And so also, right, many leaders display much more than a little amount of narcissism, okay? And as you may have figured, right, they're usually males, okay? And so we need, we need good leaders, right? We need leaders with, traits that are human, right? Traits that have empathy, right? We need leaders that don't abuse workers at organizations, right? We need leaders that are compassionate, that understand, right? That can emphasize with our human problems and the things that we're going through, right? But unfortunately, guys, right, all of those things, they're not favored when it comes to guys, for example, right? Like things like friendliness, right? Niceness. If a guy is last, right? We tend to, dismiss that guy basically, and we tend to not see him as a leader, right? Someone who is selfless, right? When it comes to guys are actually, in our society, they're in corporate settings, right? They're punished for being this way, okay? And so, we have the saying, nice guys and gals finish last, right? So even when, even when it comes to like, when it comes to, leadership and, narcissism, right? When it comes to leadership and narcissism, unfortunately, guys tend to, or not necessarily guys, women too, right? Women can very much be narcissistic too, and especially nowadays, right? Supposedly, social media has increased narcissism. It has contributed to narcissism, and the reason being is because we have to, in order to kind of attract more attention, attract more followers, right? We have to, we are kind of not forced, but yeah, in a way forced to stand out, right? So or be seen as better than all the other profiles, right? So we're kind of encouraged to kind of to display those and nurture those kind of narcissistic traits, right? And in many other ways in society too, right? But social media is one of them, right? There's also, of course, the fact that a woman in the corporate settings are encouraged to be kind of like guys, right? And so they also start kind of learning and becoming, learning how to be narcissists, right? Or kind of adapting those narcissistic traits, right? But the beauty, guys, is that what is learned, right, can be unlearned too, which is great, right? So that means that we can finally find that balance, right? When it comes to narcissism, right, as a society, as individuals, right? And but also, right, when it comes to narcissism, guys, right, is that the unfortunate thing is, right, is that a lot of people, especially like people that are kind of weaker, right, when it comes to their minds, right? So weaker, real people, right, or the flying monkeys, you can even call them, right? People can become flying monkeys for the narcissist, right? And they will do their bidding, basically, right? And I'm not just talking about in relationships. I'm talking about in work settings, okay, in corporate settings, right, in our society at large, right? Because narcissism can also be applied to not just in relationships, personal, small relationships, right? I'm talking about on a grander scheme of things, right? I'm talking about in society at large, right? On a global scale, on a bigger scale, right? And the reason why our society, or partially the reason why our society is the way that it is, right, is because first of all, it's because people are they're not they don't trust themselves to lead themselves, okay? They don't trust themselves to, they're completely disconnected, right, from source, from the Holy Spirit, from God, right, ultimately. And so they don't trust themselves any longer, okay? And because of that disconnect, they're looking for external leadership, right? And unfortunately, the external leadership that's in our society, and that's been proven during the pandemic, like I said, right? And on many other occasions, right? You know, unfortunately, that leadership is leading most of us off the cave. There's a reason, guys, on why a lot of us are so miserable. We're so broke, right? We're so we feel like we don't have a life purpose, right? And in other words, we are completely drained of our energy. We're completely depleted in every way, right? And something is not working out, right? The systems that are in place, they're not leading to a good outcome for humanity, and that's very, very apparent, right? And one of the reasons behind it, right, is, well, one is self-love, right? And the fact that we are so disconnected from source, right? That's one, that's the main reason, of course. But another one is bad leadership. Another one is narcissists, right? We have given our power away to the wrong people, basically, right? People with very bad traits, people that do not favor us, people that favor, you know, themselves over everything else, right? People that favor titles, people that favor status, people that want to be looked or seen as certain, they want to present a certain image, right? So these people, they've created an image, and that image stems from the ego, of course, right? It's a fake facade that they want to present, right? And they want to be seen as powerful, wealthy, right? Physically wealthy, having a lot of money, right? And courageous, right? Fearless, and so on, right? But when in fact they're not. They're extremely selfish. They're ego-driven, and so on, right? So they've got all the negative traits that most average people do not actually, you know, deep down, that's not what we are. That's not what we want, right? So yes, guys, so that's one thing, right? Another is the flying monkeys. Let's get back to the flying monkeys, right? So the flying monkeys are the people that are weaker-willed people, right? And the reason why they become flying monkeys, right, is because of their own low self-esteem often, right? They feel like they need leadership, right? And so they either get tricked, right, by the narcissist, and they really do kind of start to idolize, right? Idolize that person, right? That leader. Or guys, right, it can have something to do, there's a term, right, it's one of the defense mechanisms in psychology, right, and it's called identification, right? Identification is when we, basically it's a defense mechanism, right, it's a form of self-protection. We start to adapt, or we start to become like the person who is in charge, right? You know, so what ends up happening here, right, is that a lot of people who are in the organization, they because they adapt a lot of these negative narcissistic traits, they kind of almost become like the narcissist themselves, right? And so that's a huge issue too, right? Now we've got, you know, not just a narcissist, right, but a lot of people who are acting like narcissists, right? And they're defending the evil, right? They're defending the evil that's in charge, basically, right? And that's what happens on a global scale too, guys, okay? You know, and also, of course, the flying monkeys, right, or the people that you know, take the narcissist side, right? One thing is that they're misled, right? Another is that they really do think that the narcissist is a good, you know, he's a good person, right? He's a good person to follow. And in others, they're trying to gain something from it too, right? So they want favor, you know, so they begin to, so they kind of blindfold their eyes and you know, they choose to ignore a lot of the negativity that comes with narcissistic leaders, right? So they want to gain something from it, they want to gain favor, or maybe they want to just keep their jobs if they're in an organization, right? So they choose to not see what they see, right? And usually, you know, like in corporate settings are the same. You know, a narcissist always needs supply, right? They always need someone to abuse, right? So even in organizational settings, there is a specific setup that's going on, right? And one is you know, there's the black sheep, right, in the organization, or people that get abused, right? That the narcissist goes to abuse, right? It's actually the people or the person with the most amount of power, okay? Believe it or not. Anyways, guys, so every organization, right? They will have this setup, you know, they will have this setup, right, where the black sheep or the person with the most power, the person that perhaps haven't awoken to their power, right, they will be the abused one, okay? And then there will be the flying monkeys who will probably support or not say anything about this abuse, right? It's kind of like in high school, right? We've had like the popular girls, right? Or the popular boys, right? Then we've had those that were like the outcasts, right? And then there was everyone else, right? Who was usually either supportive of the abuse and they left along with the bullies, right? Or they didn't say anything, okay? So, you know, so yeah, guys, the same thing can be in our society, right? This can be this kind of way, right, of operating for people can be applied in corporate settings too, right, and in big organizations and pretty much everywhere else too, in group settings basically, okay? So, you know, ultimately, right, guys, when it comes to like spirituality, right, the narcissist is the possessed one, right? It's the demon. And the empath, right, the one who's being picked on, right, all the time, nonstop, is the empath. It's the one with the Holy Spirit. It's the person with the good heart. And unfortunately, because of the tactics that the narcissist uses against the empath, right? Usually everyone else will, the flying monkeys, they will gang up on the empath, right? Because the empath is usually not the one who's interested in having any sort of power, right? Empaths believe that everyone should govern themselves. They don't have any interest in having control over anyone, right? Unlike the narcissist. You know, and because so many people are so misled on a spiritual level, right? Or they can even be jealous too, right? They can be jealous of the empath, right? Because they can feel on a spiritual level, right? On an energetic level that the empath has what they don't have, right? They don't yet have. Perhaps they could have it if they really wanted to, right? So a lot of people will get jealous, right? And those are the ones that will jump in and will defend the narcissist too, right? And so there's jealousy, you know, because they don't believe that they can have what the empath has themselves, right? Then there's, you know, and so yeah, you've got a spiritual battle that's going on basically, right? So you've got the narc, who is the possessed, the demon, right, against the empath, who is led by the Holy Spirit, right, who's got a good heart and who really means well for everyone, right? They have no bad intentions, but often they are the one that's scapegoated, right? Because like I said, the narcissist uses a lot of manipulations and a lot of bad tactics to attack and you know, make the empath out to be the bad guy, right? And people are misled by that. You know, they're not following their hearts, they're not following their intuitions. So they're, in a way, they're blind. You know, they're blind, and so they end up siding with the narcissist. Okay, so guys, a way out of this predicament, right? A way out for out of wanting, right, or needing a leader, the wrong leader, especially the wrong leader, right, is to learn how to love yourself, to develop a healthy relationship with yourself, to heal yourself, to believe in yourself. A way out is to connect to source, it's to become in touch with your intuition, with your emotions, And for that, a lot of us, need healing, right? Because we're so disconnected from what we feel, from our intuition, right? From our guidance, inner guidance system, right? They say that emotions are the language of the soul, right? If we are, disconnected from our emotions, then how can we understand, right? What our soul needs, what is good for our soul, right? We can't. So we're forced to rely on external leaders that are out for themselves, that are only out for themselves, and that have no interest in what we want, what we need, right? What's important to us. And so guys, the only way out, right, and the only change that is extremely important and that we all need is for each and every single one of us to take our power back. It's to not hand it away to the wrong people, So that's the most important thing, okay, guys. And also, right, I will talk about this a little bit more because I think this is important too, right? Oftentimes, right, even if the leader is not a narcissist, right, even if the leader is, I've had my ex, for example, one of my exes, right, he was an empath, right, too, and he was an amazing person in many, many different ways, right? He made me better. He called me out on my bull sometimes, and I was thankful for that. Of course, I was like, wait a minute, he is right? He is right. He called me out on when I was wrong, right? And I acknowledged that, and I respected him more for it, okay, guys? So anyways, but was he perfect? Absolutely not. Were a lot of people trying to be like him, and was he popular in our uni? Yes, he was, right? But and a lot of guys did look up to him, right? Especially when it came to like fitness advice. For example, he was a very fit guy, right? Very strong, with a mesomorphic kind of like endomorphic. But well, yeah, I think he probably went from an endomorph to a mesomorph, right? Anyways, but he was in great shape, right? And a lot of guys were looking for his advice, right? He was followed, not just when it came to fitness, but in other ways too, right? A lot of guys, a lot of girls, they realized how smart he was, right, and how much he knew. And so he was looked at as a leader, right? But guys, I have to tell you this, okay? Behind closed doors, he was extremely confused about fitness and nutrition, and about what to eat and what not to eat and how to work out, right? He was trying all these different tactics and different strategies, but some of them didn't work, right? And so he used like some drugs, right, like bodybuilding drugs, and behind closed doors, and most people didn't realize how confused he was about the advice that he was confidently giving out to everyone else, okay? And so that's another thing that I learned, guys, right? At the time I was thinking, here you are, right, asking me for advice when you're dashing out this advice like you know everything, And so that kind of concerned me, because I realized at that time that, if you're a leader, you know, even leaders don't entirely know everything, okay? They can be very confused, right, about certain things too. We're all human, right? So always remember, right, that we're all imperfect, and there will be times when leaders are extremely confused about certain situations and things, but they might just present, you know, they might like act like a certain way to come off as confident, right? And you know, because who wants to follow like an unconfident person, right? A person that doesn't know the direction to a certain thing. Most of us don't, right? But you have to remember that we will all have, even leaders will have situations like this when they're completely confused about some things and they don't know which way to go, you know? And so yeah, I learned this from my ex-boyfriend at that time. You know, I was a bit disappointed too, and I told him about it too, right? I was like, hey, listen, buddy, you're dashing out all this advice, right? But you don't even know the stuff yourself. You know, you don't know, and you're acting like you do know. You know, please don't do that. You know, you have a big responsibility. You're a leader. You have a big responsibility, you know. So sometimes it's best to admit that we don't know something, right? So we don't mislead others. So yeah. Anyways, guys, but yeah, be careful who you follow, right? And this is the message that you can take from this video. Be careful who you follow. In most cases, they will be narcissistic. They will be narcissists. Be careful and connect to yourself. Connect to your higher source. You know, connect to that Christ consciousness, to the Holy Spirit, right? And work with it. Let it lead you. Let it be the leader, okay? Don't rely on external sources, okay, to lead you. They will most likely, especially in today's world, they will mislead you. And, you know, you'll fall off the cliff, sometimes even literally, you know? So, yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for more, all right? Peace.